Hello out there, my friends. It is I, Hondo Onaka. Now you know what to do. You must tune in to my favorite podcast, the Fiveish Fangirls. Otherwise, there could be consequences.
The tangents as we continue all the way to episode 475 of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, you need to understand that balance and respect all the creatures, from the crawling ant to the leaping ant. Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Fiveish Fangirls podcast. So glad to join us. Let's start off like we're doing this week. Oh my goodness. Again, allergies, brain, function, people. Hi, who's here?
This is Brittany in Bangor.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
Oh, James Earl Jones, I failed you already. This is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Rachel, I'm right there.
I had one job!
And happy 3/4 of the way to 500 episodes, ladies.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
And today apparently is International Podcasting Day, so I guess that's a good day
Ooh,
to hit
even better.
a big number like that.
Yes.
So,
Yep.
woo! Go us.
No, we're still in the planning phases of what we're going to do for episode 500 for those inquiring minds who want to know.
Yes.
That is crazy that we're getting close to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. We'll cross that bridge when we are getting closer to it.
Mhm.
So can you tell we're stalling? And when we stall, that usually means
Yes.
there's 10 o'clock
Yeah.
news that we don't want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. No.
That being said, we kind of have to. So
Yeah.
let's rip off the Band-Aid, as it were.
Mhm.
Starting with we have lost Professor McGonagall, essentially. Dame Maggie Smith passed away at the age of 89. Granted, 89 is a darn good old age to live to.
Yes.
Yep.
So I will definitely not be like, oh, she was so young.
Mm-mm.
And she has not been in the best health for the, I mean,
Right.
she's been, I mean, obviously there's stuff that comes with living that age.
Right.
But she was even sick all the way back when they were doing Harry Potter.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think cancer
So,
survivor and
yeah.
then yeah.
So but yeah, and of course we have covered Dame Maggie. We did draw her name out of the hat
Mm-hmm.
several episodes ago. I will find the correct one and I will link it in the show notes. Oh. But I was just thinking, I was like our core Hogwarts faculty, we are losing.
Yeah.
Like, we've lost
Mhm.
both old Dumbledores.
Yep.
Thankfully we still have hot young Dumbledore and Jude Law.
Yep. Bubble wrap him, please.
Yes. Like, we've lost McGonagall, we've lost
Mhm.
Hagrid, we've lost Snape.
Yep.
So, yeah.
All of the fan art that's been coming out has been making me
I know.
cry.
Yeah.
Yep. We better bubble wrap Professor Flitwick.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Madam Hooch.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's get all the Hogwarts surviving staff members and protection.
Yeah. But also, when you think about it, it's like, the movies themselves are more than 20 years old now
Oof,
from when the
man.
movies started. we started
Tired
getting
of
the movies.
plans.
So it's like,
Yeah, it was.
you know, a lot of the older actors were older then, so they're
Right.
even older
True.
now. So it's
Yeah.
like it's like it sucks. It's one of those franchises where you realize, oh yeah, it's old enough that we're going to start losing people just
Right.
to old age. you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So doesn't mean we gotta like it,
No.
but it's just, you know, on the logical side of things, it's like, oh, I guess, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It's one of those, it's the circle of life. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, obviously, yeah, most of a good number of us know her as Professor McGonagall, unless you're or a fan of Downton Abbey.
Right. Yes.
Mhm.
You know that she's
Dowager.
the Dowager, with all the sassy lines.
Oh,
Like, what's a
yes.
weekend?
Yes.
That's that thing that went by way too quickly, madam.
Yes.
For
Mhm.
most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, if you knew about them, you'd be requesting more of them.
Yeah. Exactly. So, but her CV goes a long way back. And like I said,
Yes.
we cover quite a bit of it when we pulled her name out of the hat. So, you know what to do
Mhm.
in these instances. So, and then slightly more recently,
Yes.
is Chris Christopherson,
Mhm.
who
Mhm.
is both an actor and singer.
Yes.
So it kind of depends on what
Oh,
what your poison is, or maybe it's a
right.
little
Yes.
maybe it's a little of all the above. Of course, he was in
Yep.
he's Whistler in the
Mhm.
Blade trilogy.
Yep.
Um so there's that. Of course, he's in the Barbara Streisand version of A Star
Yes.
is Born,
Yes. You got it. You got it.
which is one of the versions I've not seen, I think.
It's good.
Yeah,
It's good. It's good.
yeah.
Lady Gaga's
And
version and Barbara Streisand's. Those are the two that I like.
yeah, I've only seen the Lady Gaga version and the Judy Garland version.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, it's like they all end the same essentially.
I know. I know.
So it's really just it's really just a matter of which pairing do you want to see,
And or which time period do you want more?
exactly, what time period do you want it set in. So, but obviously his acting credits go beyond that, and of course he was also a musician, a member
Yes.
of the
Highwaymen.
super group the Highwaymen,
Yes.
which is now down to one Highwayman, with Willie Nelson being the last one left.
Yes.
Mhm.
So but another one of those super groups that kind of burned brightly for a while, and then they went off back to their respective solo careers.
Yep. A la the Traveling Wilburys. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. With both of these individuals, obviously their many works will allow them to live on,
Mm-hmm.
which is a blessing
Yes.
for those that have yet to discover them for whatever reason. Maybe their new fans have just not been born yet. So
Exactly. Well, interesting thing about Chris Christopherson, he was a Rhodes Scholar and turned down a teaching position for English at West Point to continue his music career. So yeah.
I mean, those are two vastly different career choices.
I know. Yeah. I'm just putting it out there. It's just like
that
wow.
is like that is not the like I found a path in the woods and I took the road less traveled. That is like I found two completely different roads in the woods and flipped a coin and hoped that it worked out for the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because those are not even two sides of the same coin when it comes to career options. So
no, what little research I kind of was reading last night, I was like, interesting. But
yeah,
the English teacher in me is going, yay!
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
I mean, he was, while he had a decent recording career, he did find a lot of success writing songs for other artists. There are a lot of songs out there that people may not realize he wrote.
Me and Bobby McGee. He wrote that one. Sunday Come Down, which was covered by Johnny Cash and a few others. He wrote that.
One of his fellow highwaymen.
Exactly.
So,
and then there's a few others, but those are the top two that are coming to my mind right now.
Yeah. So, there's something to be said about having a grasp on the English language and then being a prolific songwriter. So
exactly, and being able to spin those tales.
Exactly. So, there is our 10 o'clock news. So moving on to non 10 o'clock news, which we're always grateful for. Yes, we got our teaser for the Thunderbolts. Presumably this is the same or very similar to the footage that was shown at San Diego Comic-Con. These guys it's like logically I knew that these were the characters that were coming together, but to actually see them together and like some of you I like,
right,
some of you I don't,
right,
and therefore I'm not necessarily going to be rooting for you as a team, unlike with other team ups.
Right, it's just you kind of getting to bring it around to Maggie Smith again. It's just like getting dragged in front of the headmaster's office is like, great, you guys again. I gotta put up with you. Come on, get your you know what together.
Yeah, because it's like Yelena. Like I love Yelena. You know, she's a sassy little fireball, and her adoptive father, not bad either. He's him trying to play off like, oh, sorry, the place is a mess. I've been on super secret topic, phone calls. Like, yeah, sure, no, you've been sitting in your underwear ordering DoorDash.
Exactly. It's like you mean well, but you're trying just a little bit too hard.
Yeah, it just works out well that Hopper does not have to have like a chiseled physique, so David Harbour can get away with not having to go, the Chris's route of being part of the MCU, is he can have the dad bod because Hopper's got a dad bod. So it's all good in both the MCU
Thor's not impersonating the dude.
Yes. Exactly. So but it's like you I like Bucky, you I like. Why is Bucky leaving his arm in the dishwasher? We'll find out. But it's from Wakanda. It's gonna can handle anything. Apparently even the rinse cycle with Dawn dish detergent. I don't know.
Or maybe Shuri gave him the strictest instructions, like, we've got a special setup here to clean it in Wakanda, but if you gotta clean it and you're not in Wakanda, you gotta
I would
go
imagine if it's made out of vibranium that it doesn't. It should be like germ and
yeah,
resistant.
the thing should be, yeah, like you said, antimicrobial. You shouldn't
Yeah.
have to clean it. The thing should clean itself.
So my guess is maybe it's like, there are times where he doesn't necessarily want to be wearing it.
That could be.
And it's like, where can, and obviously in and itself being made, in Wakanda, it's an impressive piece of machinery. Whoever's got
Right.
their hands on it, I guess, pun intended.
Yeah.
And
Or
maybe he's all like, well, nobody would think to look for it in the dishwasher if somebody tried to come steal it.
maybe he's hiding it from Rocket.
Maybe.
Because Rocket did say he wanted
That's
Bucky's
true.
arm.
That's
That is
true.
true.
He's like, the little trash panda would not know what a dishwasher is, and therefore would not know to look there. So
Right. Nobody tell him.
Yes, nobody tell him. So, but anyway, it's like, oh, Bucky, I like you. Fake Captain America, I don't like you. So I'm
no.
not going to be rooting for you, dude.
Yeah.
In this
Val,
particular
if you
instance.
show up, don't let the door hit you know what on the way out.
Exactly. So, and we all know how I feel about Val. The fact that she hates to be called Val and I insist on calling her Val tells you everything you need to know. So
Same here.
it's like, Val, I know you hate being called Val, so I'm gonna keep calling you Val. Just to piss you off.
Because I tell you, I bet you 10 to 1 odds Tony Stark could be doing the exact same thing.
Oh, hell yes.
With some variation and spin-offs.
Absolutely. And he's not around anymore, so somebody's got to continue the tradition. So might as well be me.
Exactly.
Am I part of the MCU? No, but in my head, I am. So that's all that
I think we all are
really matters.
I think we all are in this little session.
When I have dreams, related to the pop culture, am I sometimes in the MCU? Yes. Am I mad? No.
Yeah.
If that's where my subconscious wants to take me, bring it on. No, it's all good.
Yes.
But yes, Thunderbolts, very exciting. It's coming.
Yep.
So,
and we get to see Harrison Ford in his MCU debut.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this ties into Captain America Brave New World, considering that kind of by the end Sam and Bucky were developing a friendship, so
right.
Just to and here, Bucky's all gone off and doing his thing, and Sam's butting heads with the General Ross. So
this is like, Steve, wherever the heck you are, you might need to get put on notice. You might need some help.
Yeah, Steve's like, I'm retired. Please and thank you.
Retired Schmired, you want back in.
Yeah. He's retired. In several ways.
Yes.
If you know, Deadpool 3. So there's that. And then a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, by the time you hear this, we'll be in a new month, but so we'll do book club next episode.
Right, because I still need to get the poll up and
and technically, as we're recording this, we still have several hours, but they won't by the time this goes up, because this is not going up before October 1st. So
exactly.
It's already 7:30 at night. So I go to
Part of the one, it's already October.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, but yeah. And then in the feeds, for the gold standard listeners, we have newest episode, which is one of Nick's choices, which is we're finally dipping our toes into Tarantino with Inglorious Bastards. So that was a fun discussion because Tarantino certainly knows how to spin a yarn.
Yes, he does.
Yep.
Both with completely made up stories and also when he decides to play historical fiction. So, or revisionist history. Depends on how you want to look at it. But that is in the feeds. And then over on our YouTube channel is a little video, sneaky peeky, of this year's attraction over at American Horrorplex down in Louisville. So Chauncey and I went not this weekend that just happened, but the weekend before that, down to check out this year's haunt and see what's new. And there are definitely they've made some changes, they've added some things, they've changed up the storyline a little. The sets are in some cases different, or different spots. So definitely keep you on your toes. It's I'm glad that they keep with the overall themes, broad storyline, but they just find ways to tweak it every year so that you're not getting the exact same experience. So it wasn't a little weird walking through a haunted house when it was 90 degrees outside and I was wearing shorts and a tank top? Yes. But I just imagined that that's what doing Halloween in California is like. So, or Florida. No. The folks doing Universal Halloween Horror Nights are like, yeah, whatever. We do this all the time, shorts. Sweating profusely. So yeah, it was fun to go down there and check out the haunt, see some familiar faces, see some new faces, and they're open for the season. So you can go to their website and check out operating hours and ticket prices and all the fun stuff. So, and now the weather is turned, so it's a bit more Halloweenish. So the things I do for you kids. But of course, video is just a little teaser because I don't want to get everything away. So, uh, there's stuff, the clips that are not necessarily in the order that you'd experience them in the haunt. I play with things like video speed and sound. So you're getting stuff out of context. So if you want to get the real experience, you're just gonna have to go. There's that. All right, moving on to feedback. We got some feedback from Shalane. And first off, she sent some follow-up feedback to her feedback that we covered 2 weeks ago, because we did not have feedback last week. And she says, another show I forgot to mention, James Earl Jones appeared in an episode of Recess where he did some voice acting. One last thing I forgot to mention about the TV show Big Love, it was actually filmed there in Utah. So, it's cool. Because, you actually filmed stuff in Utah. And then she sent some fresher feedback. Says Jennifer Lee, the director of Frozen, is stepping down from her role as chief creative officer of Disney Animation Studios. She's going to focus on directing Frozen 3 and Frozen 4. Jared Bush, who directed Zootopia and Encanto and was also the screenwriter for the first Moana movie, will be stepping up as a new chief creative officer of Disney Animation. Interesting. I did not know that. Since John Lasseter retired, Disney Animation films have been hit or miss. Personally, I've enjoyed them. Encanto is a big success on Disney Plus, and the song We Don't Talk About Bruno has been stuck in our heads. Yes, it has. Wish had a lot of Easter eggs and was a great movie too. I think these films will end up being considered underrated, like The Emperor's New Groove and Treasure Planet. Since Encanto did so well on Disney Plus, Strange World, and Wish also have found success on the platform. Yes, from what I understand, yeah. Once they went to streaming, they've been doing much better. Such is the case sometimes. I thought Jennifer Lee was doing well as chief creative officer, similar to how John Lasseter did, but it's probably for the best that she's stepping down. Curious to see how the upcoming movies like Moana 2 and Zootopia 2 will turn out under Jared Bush's leadership. Since the films Jared Bush have worked on have been successful, I think he'll do a good job as chief officer like John Lasseter did. I thought Byron Howard, who directed Tangled, Zootopia, and Encanto, might have been chosen for the role since his films have also been successful. But like I said, let's see how Jared Bush does. Also, didn't the Thunderbolts trailer drop this week? Yes, it did. Thank you. Yes, it dropped like not long before we sat down with our chat with Doug. So I figured we could sit on it. But yeah, interesting. Things changing at the helm over at the House of Mess for some things, but yeah, it's to be expected. Comes with the territory. So, and actually that kind of works well to segue. Speaking of Disney animation, uh and as we said, we've alluded to the passing of James Earl Jones. This is even more fitting that we get around to talking about The Lion King, which was obviously part of the Disney Renaissance. This was kind of the cap piece de resistance, I guess, if you want to call it that. As it was the I don't want to say final, but like it was the final like most successful, I guess. So of the Renaissance. So it's a little, a little murky. Because again, success is kind of relative depending on how you want to look at it. So but obviously it was a lot of the folks that had been working on the previous kind of Renaissance films would go on to work on this one. And of the films, really, Disney in general, this was like the first major Disney animation movie that was original. It was not based on like a fairy tale or folklore or something like that. It was the first one in a long time that this is essentially was original story. Now, yes, there are influences, some on purpose, some accidental, depending on who in the production you talk to. Even I myself have been guilty of being like, well, it's essentially Hamlet, and actually it's not.
Right.
It actually is a mix of several Shakespeare stories, if you really want to get pedantic about it. But it actually is it touches upon or pulls from a lot of storytelling devices, even if not specific ones. So but it still comes off as very Shakespearean. even if it's not as obvious. So but yeah, we're coming since Disney was seeing the animation side make a pivot for the better, of course, you've got a lot of recognizable names that cooks in the kitchen that came and go. Even the origin for this movie is disputed, again, depending on who you talk to. Supposedly, according to Charlie Fink, who was then the Walt Disney Feature Animation Vice President for Creative Affairs, approached our frenemy, Jeffrey Katzenberg, with the idea of essentially Bambi in Africa, where poor young prince loses parental figure, has to figure out how to grow up, that sort of thing. Katzenberg didn't necessarily like it at first, but suggested that there might be something there with like kind of like a more true nature type thing. Another anecdote states that the idea was conceived during a conversation with Katzenberg, Roy E. Disney, and Peter Schneider on a flight. Apparently, Africa came up. Katzenberg immediately jumped on the idea, which probably means this anecdote is his. And he decided to add elements involving coming of age and death and ideas from personal life experience, such as some of his trials in his career politics, saying about the film, "It's a little bit about myself." Yeah, sure, Jeffrey. Again, frenemy. So there was a treatment created in the late 80s, written by Thomas Dish, who was the author of The Brave Little Toaster. He called it King of the Kalahari. And the idea was that a lion cub gets separated from his tribe, gets adopted by a baboon and a mongoose, battles an evil jackal, and then reunites with his pride. So, yeah, the script went into lots of iterations, in different titles: King of the Beasts, King of the Jungle. It was at one point it was going to be a battle between lions and baboons. It changed directors a number of times. Michael Eisner was the one that felt the story could be more Shakespearean, and suggested modeling the story on King Lear. And yeah, it just as in general with these things, because these things take a lot of time to create in the first place, even if you've got like, okay, here we got the script, here's the music, that we're talking hand-drawn animation, so it's going to take some time. So but that also allows people to come and go for various reasons. So some people left because they got offers for something that's like happening sooner, as opposed to something that's just sitting, in development, slow moving development hell. Like I said, the screenwriters changed. About the only thing that I think from the very beginning stuck, what's his face? Tim Rice's lyrics. I think those stuck around for a while. So although obviously the music would Tim Rice, who'd worked with Alan Menken on Aladdin, and so he was brought on at the condition of bringing in he was invited to write songs for The Lion King and accepted on the condition of bringing in a composing partner. As Menken was unavailable, they accepted his suggestion of Elton John, and that's actually because Benny Anderson from ABBA's invitation fell through because he had other commitments. Imagine how maybe this would have sounded different if we'd had Benny from ABBA as opposed to Elton John. So Rice and John wrote 5 original songs. The score is by Hans Zimmer. Again, winning. And the soundtrack did really, really well. I remember owning the soundtrack on cassette. And at the time we had a stereo that would play cassettes. And I would have this sucker on repeat over and over and over and over. I don't know why. I don't know why this was the one we owned to begin with. And I guess because it was the one that we owned, I didn't have a lot of options. So this is the one that I listened to over and over and over and over and over. I don't know why. I was just fascinated with it. So, I mean, it's very catchy. There's some of the songs in there are very catchy. So, of course, now as an adult, hits a little differently. But, you know, when you're 11, it's a little different. Though. So yeah. Then of course I think comparatively to some of the other also Disney Renaissance films, this has the most recognizable stars as the cast. So with the others, you have your Disney princesses, your Paige O'Hara's and your Lindas and people like that, and Jodie Benson, who they're voice actors, but they're famous within the Disney community for being the voice of a princess or whatever. And occasionally with some of the others, they'll bring in maybe 1 or 2 recognizable stars because that's for whatever reason, but this one for some reason it worked out that this is just the cast on this is kind of stacked. I mean, you have Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was very hot at the time, as the speaking voice of young Simba. Matthew Broderick as the speaking voice of adult Simba. He does not sing for Simba, even though Matthew Broderick can sing, but they wanted, I think, more of a rock sound for adult Simba, and that's not Matthew Broderick. He is a Broadway song and dance man. So that being said, does a perfectly, fine voice as the speaking voice. You have Jeremy Irons as Scar.
Perfect casting.
Yeah. You have Nathan Lane as Timon. Rowan Atkinson as Zazu.
Zazu, yes.
Jim Cummings, who is, of course, a Disney legend in himself as a voice actor, as Ed, the only hyena that doesn't talk, just laughs. Cheech Marin is Cheech and Chong.
Yep.
as Banzai, and then Whoopi Goldberg as Shenzi, the female of the trio of hyenas.
And the brains of the outfit.
And the brains of the outfit. And then you got freaking James Earl Jones as the voice of Mufasa.
What's not to like?
I know,
Right?
but it's just like looking at this cast, it's like, this is kind of stupid just how like good this is. And again, you got Tim Rice and Elton John doing the music, and you got Hans Zimmer doing the score. Don Hahn ends up being the producer for all of this. So yeah, this was kind of like, if this failed, something would have like seriously gone wrong, I think, with the universe, honestly. So that being said, it was successful. Despite it traumatizing a whole generation of kids.
Yep.
So it is we touched upon this a little bit when we were talking with Doug about the hero's journey, and this is a version of it with Simba. Obviously not beat for beat, but it you can kind of make it fit. So and it stood the test of time. So I mean, did you guys did you guys see The Lion King when it first was released in theaters, or did you have to wait till it came out on VHS in the white plastic clamshell box?
I think I saw it when it I don't think I saw it in the theaters. It was white clamshell.
Same.
I
I
enjoyed
can't
it.
remember. I was little, so I doubt I was old enough to be at a movie theater that long.
Yeah. I don't think I did either, but I remember being a thing, though, more than I can say about some other things where I'm like I don't really remember it at the time. This I kind of remember. I remember it at the time. So what what are your guys's we'll talk about the legacy and everything here,
Mhm.
but let's talk about the actual film itself and what it means kind of to our generation.
Mhm.
So like what other than the generational trauma of
Right.
Mufasa's death
Right. Yeah, there's
that
that.
none of us are still over.
The creepiness factor of the hyenas, and be prepared.
Mhm.
That was a little trauma inducing, no matter what age. um, just what really stood out to me was the cast, and then Elton John doing soundtrack, for Disney. It was just like, whoa, okay. I think it was more of a clamshell watching, because when I watched it, I think my dad came in and he's just like, he's looking at the case, he's like, soundtrack by Elton John. Why didn't you tell me this? I'm just like, I didn't know, because I'm thinking if he would have known that, we would have had our Tookuses in the theater when it first came out.
Yeah. I
Instead of
mean,
later.
yeah. I mean, looking back, to me, not I imagine, maybe it's not an apples to apples comparison, but I'd imagine that opening,
Oh yeah, in a movie
the
theater.
sun and
Yeah.
the vineyard,
Yeah.
was probably like the equivalent of like the opening of Star Wars,
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
there's so many films where it's like immediately off the bat you're like, okay, this is a thing,
Yeah.
and
It's just
you're
like you're
immediately glued to your seat and you are not moving until it's over.
right. Your eyes are
Mhm.
not leaving that screen. Concessions can wait.
Bathroom, what's that? I don't need to go, I can hold it.
Right. Exactly. We're
Granted, The
preparing
Lion
our.
King is only 88 minutes long,
Right.
Oh.
Not the 3 hour plus opus that a certain MCU movie was.
Yes. Yeah. Although even 88 minutes, it might be asking a lot for little kids.
Yes,
But
true.
that being said, 88 minutes a lot easier to hold it
Mm-hmm.
comparatively to some others.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that of course the that opening is like memed and
Yes.
parodied all over the place. You get people that are like just make up words because they can't pronounce it.
Lifting up different things
Yes.
or having Rafiki yeet something off of the edge of the cliff.
Yeah. Which happens in the bloopers.
Yes.
Again, I will have those linked in the show notes. I did find them on YouTube, so
Yay!
It is rather funny that they made a blooper of Rafiki essentially yeeting Simba off of the cliff.
Whoops. But he bit me.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I think some of my favorites are the bloopers with Nathan Lane.
Oh yeah.
As Timon. So yeah, he just you get a comedian and just let them go, and it's all like either outtakes from eating grubs or his hula scene. So
yes, buckle up. You're gonna be laughing till you're crying.
Considering the seriousness of what happens right before we're introduced to Timon and Pumbaa, having them be that much comedic relief was desperately needed.
Oh yes, yes.
Because it's like the film is it gets kind of serious, with Mufasa trying to teach his son about one day you're going to be king and all this is you're going to have to rule and you're going to have to learn how to be fair but firm and all these things. Then you have the and then you got Simba that's just all like, I can't wait, this whole song and dance. It's the I Want song, the princess equivalent of the I Want song. I just can't wait to be king because he just thinks that he's going to be able to do whatever the hell he wants because like a lot of young folks, like when I grow up I can do whatever I want. Not realizing that it's like it's not all fun and games. But then we get this horrific death of Mufasa at the hands of his own brother, which we know that, but Simba doesn't know that. So Simba thinks it's his fault. He takes off. Looks like he's gonna die out in the middle of the barren wasteland of the desert essentially, and then he meets Timon and Pumbaa and they take him under their proverbial wing, and everything gets to be kind of hunky-dory for quite a while. It's a lot of time passes with Hakuna Matata and all that fun stuff, but in the meantime we see that Scar is a terrible ruler. you know and eventually we get Simba being the reluctant hero returning. So first we gotta have a little romance. Which I'll tell you what, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty tame. But even as a kid, I recognized during Candy Feel the Love Tonight, at one point while they're like, that they're flirting and chasing each other and essentially having their little date. At one point, because like the whole running gag is Nala's always been able to one up Simba and pin him, but at one point he pins her and the look she gives him, like now as adult, I'm like, that is a look. But even as a kid,
Yeah.
as a kid, I could tell that is like a come hither
Oh yeah.
look.
It's like
Like
I let
that's
you
a
pin me.
kind of sexy for an animated lioness.
Oh yeah. It's just like I let you pin me for a reason, and it's just like, oh boy. Fade to black, fade to black, fade to black.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was like, okay, Disney. But then we get the triumphant hero returns, and Scar eventually gets what's coming to him, and Scar's death is brutal.
Oh yeah.
Like again, kind of fade to black, but not before you see the silhouette, the shadows and silhouette of the hyenas going like, dude, we heard everything you said about how you think we're stupid and this is all our fault and you turncoat, screw you. Which is how Scar ends up as a fur rug in, is it Tarzan?
Hercules.
Hercules, yes. Hercules. So I know he ends up as a fur rug somewhere. So but it's a fairly straightforward storyline. You got some bops songs. You got obviously your love ballad. You've got your villain song, which Jeremy Irons absolutely kills it, with a little help from Jim Cummings. So like I said, if this had failed, something I think seriously would have been wrong with the universe. That being said, it did do very well. It made, it actually had a limited release in its original opening, and then it got wide release like a week after that. It also probably helped at the time that a lot of movie theaters were implementing the newest in surround sound, digital surround sound. So Disney also went and made sure that this has, throughout the years, in the 30 years since its original release, that it has been adapted in a number of languages. What the original release, there were 28 versions between different languages and dialects, including Zulu for South Africa. And they actually found Zulu voice actors. So it's not just the only Zulu dubbing ever made by Disney, but also the only one made in any African language other than Arabic. So this would be the first time a special dubbing would be released in honor of a Disney movie background, but not the last, because the Moana got a Tahitian language version, and then a Maori version, and then a Hawaiian version. Frozen 2 was dubbed in Northern Sami. And by 2022, 45 language adaptations of The Lion King have been produced. And I don't know if it's still there, but there was the Zulu dubbing version was available on Disney Plus. So that's cool. Yeah, it did get a re-release in theaters in 2002 for IMAX and larger format theaters. It was converted into 3D for a 2-week limited theatrical release in 2011, which is a lot easier to do for animation than live action. So for part of the 100th anniversary, it was re-released in select theaters in fall of last year. And for the 30th anniversary, it was re-released in July in theaters. So it's made a lot of money at the box office at this time. And then of course Disney Home Media releases First released on VHS and Laserdisc in 1995, part of the Disney's Masterpiece Collection video series. There was a VHS edition contained a special preview for Pocahontas. The VHS Deluxe edition included the film, an exclusive lithograph of Rafiki and Simba, a commemorative Circle of Life epigraph, 6 concept art lithographs, and another tape with the half-hour TV special, The Making of the Lion King.
Interesting.
That is not the version on VHS we owned.
Nope.
We have a basic version. That being said, the VHS tape became the best-selling videotape of all time. 4.5 million tapes were sold on the first day, and
Not surprised.
ultimately totaled more than 30 million before the
Wow.
home video versions went into the vault in 1997. VHS releases have sold a total of 32 million units in North America and grossed $520 million in sales. And another 23 million units have shipped overseas to international markets. Overall, it has sold more than 55 million video copies worldwide by August 1997, making it the best-selling home video title of all time. And of course, there have been re-releases since then with DVD. There was Lion King Platinum Edition. There's now Blu-ray, of course. So yeah, box office wise, as of July 2024, so as of slightly past the 30th anniversary, it has grossed $425 million in North America and $553.8 million in other territories. So almost $1 billion. Yes. So it is ranked as, after its initial run of $763.5 million, it ranked as the highest grossing animated film of all time and the highest grossing film of Walt Disney Animation Studios and the highest grossing film of 1994. It's now the fifth highest. It sits as the fifth highest grossing film of the 90s domestically. So it's made a lot of money.
Oh, yes.
And then it's also made a lot of hardware as well.
That too.
Yes, including a number of miscellaneous awards, including a Oscar for Best Original Score going to Hans Zimmer. Best Original Song going to Elton John and Tim Rice for Can You Feel the Love Tonight? So that was Elton John's first Oscar win.
Yes.
He now has 2. Although Circle of Life and Hakuna Matata were also nominated. This is one of those years where multiple songs from the same Disney movie were nominated in the Best Original Song category. So statistically, it was going to go to a Disney movie.
Right.
It's just a matter of which song.
Right. It was going to go to the Lion King pretty much, but yeah.
Yes.
What song? Anybody's guess.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, it won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture, Musical or Comedy, Best Original Score, Motion Picture, Best Original Song for Can You Feel the Love Tonight. Of course, Grammys as well. Best Male Pop Vocal Performance, Elton John. Best Musical Album for Children. Best Spoken Word Album for Children, which is the Lion King Read Along. Best Instrumental Arrangement with Accompanying Vocals. And the list goes on. Even Jeremy Irons got nominated for Best Villain for the MTV Movie Awards that year.
Cool. And that's saying a lot, especially if it's coming from MTV.
Yeah. It's been inducted into the National Film Registry by the National Film Preservation Board. So, which is run by the Library of Congress, as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. That being said, even with the success, it has not been without controversy. Of course, if you know, the what does that say in the sky? Controversy.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
At one point, Simba flops down and some dust flies into the air and it mixes with the stars in the sky, and a lot of people thought that it says sex.
Yep.
Kind of. It's supposed to say SFX, which is a common abbreviation for special effects, because a lot of creators like to put their own little Easter eggs in there. But yeah, according to one of the animators, it says SFX. Also, supposedly, some hyena biologists had some issues with the way that hyenas are portrayed in this movie. I'm not sure how seriously you could take that. Because according to supposedly one hyena researcher who had organized the animator's visit to the University of California, Berkeley field station for study of behavior, ecology, and reproduction, where they would observe and sketch hyenas in captivity, decided to boycott the Lion King, and said that the Lion King set back hyena conservation efforts. Although some people think that this was kind of tongue-in-cheek, which I'm inclined to believe, because that's a stretch, I think, even for some things. But hey, I know.
Mm-hmm.
There have been complaints of the hyenas being stereotype of Black and Latinos, which that I can kind of understand.
Yes.
Yeah, because you've got Whoopi Goldberg, who is a well-known African American, Academy Award-winning African American performer, as one voice. You got Cheech, who's a well-known Latino performer. No offense to Jim Cummings, but he's a white dude. But Ed doesn't also say really anything; he just laughs. So, and having having the hyenas be very much kind of in the same, kind of cut from the same cloth as the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they're just like a little dumber, a little slower, a little clumsier, a little less sophisticated, just making them seem lesser than. That I could kind of understand. That being said, traditionally, your villains, sidekicks, and minions are usually come off as lesser than, so that the bad guy comes off as like the evil genius mastermind. So I don't know if they had all been voiced by like white people, if they would have this same issue or not, if they were still portrayed the same way. But as a white person, it's not my fight. So but I could see where some people might take it a little negative, a little stereotypy. Though, but I am not of any of those classes, so I don't have a leg to stand on there. That being said, this I did not know. This I recently discovered or found out about. This particular controversy is the resemblance to Kimba,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
which is uh Japanese or actually it's a Japanese animated anime television series, which in Japan called Jungle Emperor, known as Kimba the White Lion in the United States. And a lot of similarities. Both between characters and scenes. So because both Kimba and Kimba's creator Osamu Tezuka, big in Japan, or like cultural icons. Yeah. And actually Matthew Broderick was familiar with Kimba and thought that they were just working on an American version. So there are people that were like, either own up to your plagiarism and give credit to Tezuka where it's due. The Roger Allers, who is one of the directors, claimed he was completely unfamiliar with Kimba and doesn't remember anyone ever mentioning it. That being said, someone else brought up the fact that Allers may have, on a subconscious level, picked up on it because he lived in Tokyo in the late 80s when Kimba was on primetime television. Although the timeline does not quite match up. It may not necessarily, he may not have seen the primetime series, but because Kimba is such a popular figure, at the very least, he may have probably seen him like in shops, on merchandise and stuff like that. So it may have just been a subconscious pickup type thing. So, but yeah, the Tezuka Productions, they saw a company, some of the people at their company got to see a preview and immediately were like, this is a bit too similar. They apparently had people telling them, Tezuka Productions, they had people telling them that they should sue, and they said, no thank you, because we're a small company and this is Disney,
Right.
essentially.
Yes.
So
we will just go into the imitation as a serious form of flattery and leave it at that.
Kind of. So, but I mean, the fact that it was Kimba and our character is called Simba, but then again, Simba is the Swahili word for lion, I think. It's a word for lion. I start remember what dialect. I think it's Swahili. So, but yeah, there's some people are like, there's absolutely no inspiration. I'm like, maybe not. So, but have you guys heard of this? Because I never heard this before. The whole Kimba the White Lion thing. This is news to me.
I had vague recollections of it, but I forgot about it until you brought it back up. But I do remember reading something about it.
Yeah, I remember seeing stuff like online, but I never really looked into it to see like what it's all about. I just remember seeing something about like, oh, Lion King's a ripoff of this. I'm like, oh, is it? I don't know.
Unfortunately, Disney doesn't necessarily have the best track record when it comes to their source material or where they source stuff from. So
True.
it's water under the bridge now, I think, for most everybody involved. Although it does get a little nod in an episode of The Simpsons. And of course, with a lot of Disney things, you can't just have the film. It's gotta take off in 5 million different directions. Of course, there were 2 direct-to-video sequels. You have The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, which is about Simba and Nala's daughter. And then Lion King 1.5, which is a prequel showing how Timon and Pumbaa met each other.
And kind of the Lion King from their side of things.
Yes. Yes.
Which I have to admit, I love the premise of that.
Yes.
Yeah. There also was a animated series called The Lion Guard.
I don't remember
I've heard
that
of it.
one.
I've heard of
Yeah.
that, and like some of my friends who have kids have watched it and says it's pretty good. And I've kind of been wanting to watch it, but I haven't done it yet.
I
It looks
thought
cute.
I thought Timon and Pumbaa might have even had their own cartoon
They
series
did.
for a
I
little
remember
while.
watching that as a kid. They had one.
Well, and Timon and Pumbaa had their own mini movie at Walt Disney World over in
Cool.
Epcot.
Oh.
It's gone now, I'm pretty sure. I actually never saw it. It's just one of those things where it's like, I think maybe I went to it once. And essentially it was at Epcot in the Land Pavilion, and was Timon and Pumbaa talking about conservation, essentially, and what you could do to help like protect the environment and stuff. But yeah, it was it was one of those things where it's like, here's a good place for for you to sit for like 10 minutes and prop your feet up in air conditioning. And maybe your kids will learn something with some characters that may or may not recognize at this point. So, um, and then of course we had the quote unquote live action remake in 2019. Um, which really is, because it's not live action, it's all CGI. So it's a photorealistic animated remake, directed by Jon Favreau. So, it's in good hands. And again, with the cast, you've got Donald Glover as Simba, Seth Rogen as Pumbaa, Chiwetel Ejiofor as Scar, Alfre Woodard as Sarabi, Simba's mother, Billy Eichner as Timon, um, John Oliver as Zazu, which I think is brilliant. Like, who else are you gonna have? Yeah, we're not gonna do Rowan Atkinson again. Who's the next best thing? John Oliver. Uh, Beyonce as Nala, and of course James Earl Jones as Mufasa. Uh, so, and of course we have the upcoming movie Mufasa, The Lion King, which is going to be our Mufasa origin story. Um, which we got some of the CGI, the the quote unquote live action coming back for some of the voices. I'm not familiar with the guy voicing Mufasa or the guy voicing Taka, who will later be known as Scar. We got Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner coming back as Pumbaa and Timon. We have Mads Mikkelsen voicing Kyros, a white lion. We shall see how that goes. It's scheduled for the holidays this December. And then of course we have the stage adaptation, which is the biggest successful thing I think to come from this franchise outside of the movie itself. They obviously Disney decided to make a musical stage adaptation based on the film. It premiered in Minneapolis, of all places, in July of 1997, then opened on Broadway in October of 1997 at the New Amsterdam Theater. Of course, it uses a lot of the songs from the movie. It has 3 new compositions by Elton John and Tim Rice. There are 6 indigenous African languages sung and spoken throughout the show. And is one of the most successful musicals in Broadway history. Won 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, and it is currently the third longest running show and the highest grossing Broadway production in history.
Not surprised.
Yeah. So, and it's and it kind of, its use of costumes and puppets is what makes it very unique. Because you could see the actors' faces, but they put them in these elaborate costumes that evoke the image of the different animals without them being like, this is a giant elephant puppet, or this is a giant giraffe puppet. You know, um, so it's it's a very distinct look to it, but I think it really really works. And I remember when I first discovered, learned about the musical, and people are like, oh, how's this gonna work? It's an animated movie where everyone is animals. Like, how are you gonna translate this to Broadway? And they're like, hold my beer. And kind of was the test, and obviously very successful test, for Disney adapting other animated films into stage productions, showing that animation can translate into a version of live action that works on the stage. And there was a puppet, life-size puppet version called The Legend of the Lion King that was at the Magic Kingdom from 1994 until 2002. So I never got to see that, but over at Animal Kingdom, there's still the live action 30-minute musical review Festival of the Lion King, which has similar costumes, but it also has its own unique costumes and some animatronics, because it's kind of Cirque du Soleil-ish in a way. So there's like monkeys jumping on trampolines and doing flips and all sorts of stuff. And it's really cool. It's very cool. If the nice thing is the theater that it's in the round, so really there's not a bad seat wherever you go, wherever you sit. So but yeah, that is still open over at Animal Kingdom. There's a version at Hong Kong, in Disneyland's Adventureland. And there was a version at Disneyland Paris from 2004 to 2009. But yeah, that is the legacy up to this point of The Lion King. 30 years on, we got the film. We've got several sequels, prequels, spin-offs. We've got full Broadway stage versions. We've got the mini stage versions at the theme parks, and you've got you don't really have the characters. That's the one thing, you don't really get the Lion King characters as ones that you can really meet and greet, except for Rafiki. Occasionally you will see Rafiki out, usually at Animal Kingdom, as a meetable character. So that is one thing that that is missing, I guess. That being said, you can go to Animal Kingdom and see actual lions. So you can't get close, but you can see actual lions. uh so what do you guys think?
I think we did good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything else that we can add.
Mm-hmm.
That's like It's hard to believe that it's 30 years.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. That is true. That is very true. Well, if any of our listeners want to pipe in with their opinion about the Lion King, whether the original movie or any of the other subsequent films, or the stage version, or whatever. Shalane, I'm talking to you. We all know Shalane's going to be sending in feedback. But if anyone else on top of Shalane wants to send feedback, you can email us, fiveishfangirls@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, which is the fivishfangirls.com, where you can find all the links to our various social media accounts, podcast related and individual as well, along with links to things like the book club. Said we'll have book club update next episode, because by then we'll be in a new month. Firmly in a new month. And also links to ways you can financially support us if you're so inclined, including one-time donations, becoming a regular supporter on Patreon, buying merch, all of the things. We greatly appreciate all of your support, financial and otherwise. Every little bit helps. And yeah, all the things. So, I guess we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany Bangles saying goodnight.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hakuna Matata! It's our motto. Oh, come on, work with me here.
Yeah.
Say the line!
What's the motto?
Nothing! What's the motto with you? Thank you, our Fiveish fam, for joining us on this week's geeky journey. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay connected with us on our website, thefivishfangirls.com, and follow us on most social media with @FivishFangirls. Plus, check out our nonprofit, Fangirls Give Back, to see how we're making a positive impact in our community. Until next time, stay nerdy and let the squee continue.